Hey Revolutionaries, I'm excited to bring you this week's episode with RJ Macalanda, where we're talking merch by Amazon and how he discovered it back in 2017 after attending the Nomad Summit in Chiang Mai, and how, just a few months in, he was able to start making thousands of dollars per month. It's a pretty incredible story, but before we get there, I just wanted to remind everybody that, again, coming up December 1st to the 4th in Cleveland, Ohio, we have the Blockland Solutions Conference that's going on. And there's a discount code out there for it. If you've been listening to the show, you know what it is already. Jim, it's JIM. If you go to blocklandcleveland.com and click on the Solutions Conference tab to sign up, just punch in JIM, and you'll get $400 off. If you're a developer out there, I think you get even more off, but you need to attend the pre-developer days. So that's out there too as well if you're an actual developer. In any event, also there's a event going on in Cleveland tomorrow at Case Western Reserve University. That's for Global Entrepreneurship Week. So it's a worldwide event. That's right, because that's what global means. They're building a blockchain ecosystem, so people will be there presenting projects and standing up talking about their blockchain ideas. So I'll see you there. It's sold out, so it's going to be a pretty cool event, but I'll see you there. Just a reminder for people that are going. Okay, so let's get back to RJ for a second here. So this is kind of a funny thing that popped up when we were recording the episode. This goes back a few weeks where we're joking around. Now he's making all this money and he's location independent, so he can be where he wants. And we were talking about what he's doing, and he's not really into material things. He likes to travel and likes experiences, so that's what he's been doing. And he was joking around that that he calls himself a baller on a budget. And we thought it was a funny phrase, and since he inspired me to do merch by Amazon, I said during the episode that, hey, maybe I'll put together a design, and that'll be my first t-shirt design. So what I did since then was, yes, I did do that. I put together a design, and by the way, my design skills are horrible, so I kind of put it together just as on a whim, sort of as a joke in a way. And the link is in the show notes, so if you want to search for it in the show notes, you'll find it. And you'll see how interesting and unique the design is. Let me just say that much. There's only so much you can do with free clip art out there. But anyways, what I'm saying is, RJ, I expect to see this showing up on your Instagram feed sometime soon. No, I'm not really saying that. Don't do that to yourself. But maybe if you have a friend out there that you want to buy the shirt for, I think that would be a good idea just for fun. And if you do, I will be, of course, I will love you to the end of time, Anyways, what it represents to me is that, hey, I figured out how to design shirts. I figured out how to load them in. I got my account signed up for, and the shirt is live out there. And I figured out how to do the descriptions and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, it represents action. Taking action is better than no action. So that's really what it's all about. Anyways, I thought I just wanted to have a little fun out there and just to celebrate this episode with that. So anyways, let's get to the episode. Finally, here we go.
Welcome to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, Jim.
Okay. All right, are you back? Say something real quick.
Yep, back here.
Okay, perfect. Okay, sounds great. All right, we're going to get going here.
Cool, let's do it.
All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, this is Jim, and welcome to episode 43 of Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm talking today with RJ, and we're talking merch by Amazon. So, RJ, welcome to the revolution.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Jim.
All right. Hey, that microphone sounds great, and thanks for going all out and getting it, because I knew you were going to be on the road. So, tell me where you are right now.
So I am actually in Kona, Hawaii. So aloha from the Big Island.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I knew that you were going out there, and it's kind of taken me back to about 2 years ago when I was first there. So I've only been there once, and I went out there for this dropship lifestyle retreat. And I remember it just being like, man, it's just so cool and laid back there. So tell me what's happening. Have you been to Hawaii before?
No, this is my first time in Hawaii actually, and as you mentioned, cool and laid back is exactly what it's at. Like I've stayed in pretty much my general area and in my house for a long time, just working out of here, and there's a
Okay.
pool and like everything you need. So there's really like I don't feel like needing to go out and explore and do things just because it's been so relaxed here. So
Right.
it's
It's
definitely a
so
chill vibe.
it is. It's such like a mellow tip, and it's beautiful, and it's just like,
Right.
wow, why don't I live here? This was my
Right.
impression when I first got there, because it was like, I've been to like big cities like New York and Bangkok and Thailand, all these crazy places, but you don't think too much about like, yeah, I'm just gonna live here because it's so different from where I live now, I guess.
Exactly.
But I could drop right into Kona and be happy. So, anyways, hey, before we get into why you're out there, because it's a very interesting reason why you're out there, and I want to talk. I want to let everybody know how we got connected, because recently I was just in Las Vegas. People that have been listening out there, was in Las Vegas for the Nomad Summit, or the Digital Nomad Summit, nomadsummit.com, I guess, Johnny's event, Johnny FD, that he held it out there. And that's how we got connected. So that's how I met you out there. So tell me what you were doing out there, and what your impression was of the Nomad Summit.
Yeah, absolutely. So my Nomad Summit experience started in Chiang Mai 2017. So the Las Vegas one was actually my second one that I went to.
Oh, okay. I
And
did not know
so,
that. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the summit, and I really liked it last time because of all the people you meet there. Not so much the content this time around, because I've already been pretty established as a nomad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just a beginner my first time in 2017. But this time I was like, you know what? It's so much closer from Texas to Las Vegas than it is to Thailand.
Right.
And I know that I'm going to have a great experience and meet a lot of cool people out there. So might as well jump over there and learn a lot about what else is kind of trending going on. And like, I was also really interested in the tax benefits. So there was a talk that
Right.
out of every single one I went and like saw, the tax one is the one that I was like, ooh, I need to take good notes for this, because there is a method where you can legally not pay taxes if you're outside of the country for 330 days. And so I
Right.
was like, that's so interesting. So I need to learn all about that. But you and I met just because we both like doing this thing, and we're both interested in the nomad life. So
Right.
we both went to it, and I'm not exactly sure like the first point of contact that we had with each other, but I just remember always having a good time with you, Jim. So
Oh, hey, I
Yeah.
appreciate it, man. Well, I remember, I was excited to go, and I have my connection to kind of getting into all this goes back a couple of years. People that have been listening out there has probably heard a little bit of the story before, but I have a buddy that just happened to be living in Thailand, a guy that I went to high school with. That he's been on the podcast at Knuth, and so I kind of blew out to kind of just kind of change up what I was doing, just because I was getting frustrated with some of my clients, my consulting clients and such. So that's how I kind of started opening my mind initially, and started my own kind of personal reinvention a little bit, I guess. But it's interesting in terms of just discovering this nomad scene and what the possibilities are, and all the different business models that are kind of popping up in the online world. How did you get the idea of wanting to be a nomad, or getting into this scene, living in Texas? Is that where you grew up, in Texas?
Yeah, born and raised in Dallas.
Okay.
And it's actually it was a process. So ever since I'd say probably middle school, I've always been interested in kind of flipping something to get a little profit, or like what's an alternative way to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was involved in basically flipping headphones. Also, I was doing, I forgot the program, but it was like if you have a bunch of points build up, you can get a free PlayStation or something like that.
Oh,
And so
okay.
all these little things where it's like you don't actually have to be traditionally transactional is like kind of sparked my mind since I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And in college, I was also interested in, like, it doesn't make sense to work, like for $7 an hour. And it's like, I'm only a freshman. So how can I make money? Because no one's going to hire me. You go to these career fairs and it's
Right.
like, they're only hiring juniors and seniors and people with experience. It's like, how can you get experience if you can't get hired? So,
Right, exactly. That old problem.
right.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like, man, like I gotta find some alternative to actually like get some money in my pocket. So
Mhm.
I started a couple businesses in college. Some were great, some weren't so good, but it's always been some part of my mindset where it's just like, hey, there's a traditional route, go for it, but there's always going to be an alternative out there. And so it's kind of a mindset thing of how I all came to where I am now. And then coming into the real world post college,
Right.
I had a business where I was going to choose between entrepreneurship and I was going to choose between like the traditional role of like finding a job and everything. And so I actually had a successful Kickstarter and it was ready to go. And I
Oh,
was like,
really?
do I
Okay.
really want to do this? Yeah. I can talk about it a little bit, but basically I was following the keto diet and this was way
Okay.
before it blew up. For perspective, the subreddit for keto, r/keto, it had about 20,000 followers. For that subreddit. Today, I believe, I haven't looked in a while, but I believe it's over 500,000, probably a million
Oh,
by
wow.
now.
Wow.
Keto is really blown up.
Right.
And
Yep.
so I had one of the first websites for any keto resources. And that's where I was like, I know this is going to be big and I know there's nothing out here and it's already changed my life. But the whole like traditional sense of like, hey, you need to find your job and
Right. That's
apply
interesting.
for everything.
Well,
So
I was just gonna
torn.
ask you what's your family connection to any of this? Like, does your family do they run businesses? Are they entrepreneurs at all, or are they more traditional, kind of in their education or background?
Kind of, sort of. Okay, so present day, my family is very traditional. So my parents, I have an older sister and a younger brother, but my parents are super traditional. So my mom, she works 2 jobs as a night shift nurse.
Okay.
And she's been doing that for as long as I've known. And then my dad, he works for the city. So they're both in pretty traditional jobs.
Right.
And
So not the
way I
business world,
see
yeah.
it, no, not the business world, not at all.
Right.
The way I see it though is that like in the beginning when I was pushing like nomadism and stuff, they're like, yeah, it's nice, but it's like it's not for you. They were pushing me to be a doctor and a lawyer for
Right.
my
Right.
whole life, basically.
Right. That's the thing parents do.
Right. And but the thing is, like they migrated from the Philippines, and my dad was traveling all over for work, and so that was way before they started a family. But I just kind of relate to them, where it's like, hey, like you moved to a different country, so it's like I can do that too. So I've never had that
Oh,
mindset
okay.
of like, hey, I should just stay to where I'm at in the same city for life.
Right. Oh, that's a good perspective, and that's a good context for you to have. Not everybody wants to do that or appreciates that they can do it. It's nice to have the choice in your mind, rather than getting way farther into life and thinking like, yeah, why did I stick around this little town or whatever,
Right. But some people are completely happy with doing that. So I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's just live your own life, right?
Yep.
And then moving on to after that choice of if I had to choose the entrepreneurship or real world job, I ended up choosing the real world gig because it's like, you know what? I got an interview and acceptance to a company that they were very, very selective on hiring people. It's something like 0.001% of job applicants get accepted. I was like, this is kind of too good to pass up. So I went for that. And it was inside sales and outside sales as an insurance broker. So that was my main gig for about 6 months or so. And I was really grinding hard, like working probably 80 hours a week. I was there on weekends. I wasn't sleeping. It was like wake up at 5, go to bed at like 11 if you can get home by that time.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was really rough. Like, it wasn't required, but it was encouraged to do that. And like that was my mentality. It's like I work hard when I really put my mind to something. And so like I was coming in like, guns blazing, like let's get at it.
Right.
And on the side, it was like I'm falling asleep, you can't physically be up for that long.
It's starting to take a toll after a while, right?
Right. And it's like, you're driving around town talking all these loan officers, like bankers and real estate people, and you're just driving. But it's like when you're in the office, you're like grinding on the phone, talking to clients. So I was falling asleep at the car when I was going to the other banks and stuff. And I was like, after the third time of like my head dozing off, I was like, is this really worth it? Is it,
Wow.
Okay.
Right.
And I was like, I don't think it's really worth it to be falling asleep and like risking my life to, make money and achieve like quote a good life or whatever. And I was also looking at the older people in the office, and it's like they were celebrating canceling vacations because they were able to close a bigger deal. And it's like
Wow,
your family
interesting.
is so affected by that. And I was like, that's rough. I don't want to do that. So I started researching like, hey, what's the opposite of this, So
I like that. I like that
alternative
concept.
route.
What's the opposite of this? That's great.
Yeah. And so I looked up a lot of things and eventually stumbled upon digital nomads. And so I just read everything about them. Like, what's a digital nomad? I'm sure like everyone looks this up and like, how can I be a digital nomad? And it's like how to make money online 101 and all that stuff. And so I was just browsing, and all of a sudden the summit appeared, and it's like, okay, there's a conference and there's a lot of people going, so let me look into this. Alternatively, I was on another forum called Millionaire Fastlane Forum, and it's by the book Millionaire Fastlane. And so I was reading a bunch of people's stories, and there's this 18-year-old that created an app agency, and it was basically just drop shipping apps. So he would buy an app from one place and then go to a company and say, hey, do you need this app? And then he'll sell it at a higher price to them. So he didn't have to know any developing.
That's interesting. Yeah. So an app reseller. Oh my goodness.
An app reseller. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, I can do that. He's 18. Like, I'm pretty young too. So let me go at it.
Right.
And so I went to Thailand with the expectations of doing two things, because you always got to have your alternative. I was going to learn from the digital nomads, go to the summit, and then also learn from or partner with different businesses and different developers, because I know there's a lot of developers in Thailand because they're all pretty much remote workers, or like they're all really good.
Sure.
And so the plan was to get contracts from Texas and then buy them in Thailand and then sell it back for,
I see.
thousands more. Yeah. And so went to the summit, learned everything, and had a great experience in Thailand. Partnered with about 80 developers, and I took all of their portfolios and basically told them exactly what I'd be doing. And they're more than happy to do that because you're bringing them more money. So it doesn't matter what the price tag is. Right. And then you just go over to the States and upcharge it by, 10, 20,000 or something like that.
So now were these apps that were already developed that of the developers that had like things that they could offer you, or these were things you were going to create, or like once you talk to the business itself, like customize or something?
Right. So these were going to be custom apps built from scratch.
Oh, built from scratch. Okay.
And so coming back to Texas, I hit it hard. I was like, all right, let's go. So meeting with all these people, all these different businesses, and I did that for about 5-6 months, but then I realized like I am doing the exact same thing that I left for. So still driving around.
I was just going to ask you that because I was thinking like this can be intense because I've done a lot of product development in my career. So, if you're doing custom stuff and you're talking to this business, they're going to change their mind 6 times and they don't really know what they want and all this kind of stuff, right? And that's exactly what you ran into, right?
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so I was like, man, I'm
you thought you had the plan.
It's like I'm still working 80 hours a week. What happened? And I was still stuck in Texas, so it's like nothing really changed.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I decided to cut the cord on that, and I was partnered with somebody else, and I just basically said like, all right, well, go ahead, like do what you want to do with it, because it's not the life for me anymore.
Right.
But I ended up like trying all these different things that I learned in Chiang Mai. And so I was talking to my friends. It's like, hey, like I'm trying to get back and, what are you doing again? Like teach me. And like went through all these courses and tried, drop shipping, tried eBay selling, tried affiliate marketing, tried all these different things. I was taking a Shopify course.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day during that course, I got an email that said, "Hey, you've been accepted to Merch by Amazon." And I was like, "Oh, no way. Okay. I don't remember applying for this. What's Merch by Amazon?"
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, didn't apply? They just sent it to you, huh?
Right? So I think I applied. Maybe I saw it on like the Nomad forum or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember how I applied.
Okay.
And I got accepted. I looked it up, and I was like, you know what? This actually sounds like a viable resource of income. So maybe I'll try this, because I had a T-shirt business in college, and I went through the whole thing. I had it wasn't a screen press, but it was a heat press. So
I see.
Basically this giant like 400-pound machine that heats up to like 800 degrees in my dorm room. And I'm like,
you had it in your dorm room, really?
Well, I had it in my trunk, and then I was like, if I wanted to print it, then I'd have to sneak it into my dorm, because I was like so heavy. And so it's like, this isn't like, I thought I was going to make it easy on myself by like having this thing and not like the 8-arm press.
Right.
And I was like, it's going to be so great. And then all of a sudden it's like, that's a lot of work. You know?
Right. Right. That's crazy.
So,
hey, before we get farther into this, I want to, so people are understanding, can you explain what Merch by Amazon is?
Yeah,
like people that haven't heard of it or don't understand some of these business models, because it's really interesting. Once you discover it and once you figure out what's really going on.
Right. So Merch by Amazon is what you call a print-on-demand service. So this is basically, if you have a T-shirt idea, then you can go to a print-on-demand service, ask them for one shirt or 500 shirts. It doesn't matter. But they'll print it on demand for you. As soon as something's put in and they get money, then it's like, all right, let's make it for you and ship it. So Amazon does that, and it's called Merch by Amazon. It's not their new process. It's been around for a long time, but Amazon just began doing it, I think, like maybe 3 years ago. So it's still pretty wild west from Amazon, but the system's been around for a while.
Right. There's been other companies out there, like Cafe Press, I think, was one of the earlier ones. Tons of other different websites that will do print-on-demand type of products, swag, logos, and kind of marketing materials. But I think the interesting thing about Amazon doing it is they have this massive ecosystem and these business models that I think are much more powerful in a way, because you can leverage the search and Amazon environment. Is that kind of how you see the world through this now?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, there's Redbubble, there's Teespring, there's so many different print-on-demand sites that will do the exact same thing that Amazon's doing.
Right.
But the thing is that Amazon has all the customers. So you want to go to where all the customers are at. Basically, if you had your own website and were printing T-shirts and trying to sell on your individual website on like Shopify or whatever, that's basically opening up shop at the bottom of the ocean. No one's going to see you.
Right.
But if you're on Amazon, then it's like you're already there. This is where everybody's shopping now. So that's where the value comes in. And that's why I chose just to stick with Amazon.
Right. I got you. And another like interesting nuance is, of course, since it's print on demand, there's no inventory that you have to buy, and it's not, you're not treated as a reseller. Like, this is something I noticed about the business model when I first heard about it, when we got connected, was that it's the revenue that you generate is treated as royalties, and it's not based on reselling goods that have already been produced. So I think that's kind of an interesting distinction tax-wise, because I was doing a dropship store for a little bit. I didn't really quite get it going, but I had to file for an LLC. I had to get a reseller certificate because I was actually reselling products that had already been produced. I think the way Amazon has it set up is they give you a royalty on whatever their process is. So it's a little bit handled a little bit different tax-wise, and it's easier, basically, I think, if you can figure out how to get it to work, So
yeah, Merch by Amazon is the easiest and most simplest business model there is for making money online to date. I absolutely believe that. And just because I've tried a whole bunch of other things, and I don't know of an easier process, and it's cheap too. Like, there's basically no startup costs. And just to kind of recap of like what Merch by Amazon is. So here's how the process works. I create a t-shirt design and then I put that to Amazon and I say, hey, this is what I want to be on a shirt or a hoodie or a long sleeve or whatever other products they have. And so I put in the description, I put in how much I want to charge for it and what colors the shirts I want, all that stuff. And I submit that. They go through a review process. They put it live on Amazon, and it looks exactly like a listing that any other Amazon listing looks like. And when someone buys it, Amazon goes through the database and they say, okay, they bought this shirt, so let's print that and we'll send it to the customer. And so the customer gets the package and then you get the royalties. So I actually do not know any of my customers. I don't know who they are or like what they look like or what their address is or anything. The only thing that Amazon sends me back is what was bought, the size of it, the color, and how much money they're sending me. So it really is like, you don't have to talk to anybody, which is amazing, you know?
that is amazing. I mean, but it's also a little bit of a rub, perhaps, if you're trying to, build your own brand bigger or whatever. Like a lot of people think, hey, all the money and equity is in having your own email list, like knowing who your customers are and being able to retarget them and such. I guess in more traditional models, but that's working with Amazon. That's just the way Amazon is handling it, and yeah. But there's benefits of it just being very easy and very low cost to get into. So yeah, what an amazing thing. So tell me about how when you first got involved in it, how did you think about it, or how did you go about trying to figure out the process of actually selling shirts? So you can come up with your own design, you can sign up, you can load up shirts, and but it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to sell.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I'll talk about like how it all started and kind of go a little further than that.
Yeah, perfect.
So as I got that email, I started researching and like, how can I sell? How does this work? Like, I want to make sure I do it right. And I put all of my time into this. I'd stopped taking that Shopify course. And so I went in and looked up everything I could find on Merch by Amazon. So like all the blog posts, all the YouTube videos, everything. And so for the first month, I was really like trying to A/B test it. So you had to be a little careful because there's a couple things that kind of sway you away from Merch by Amazon. One is that you're on a tier system. So you're only allowed X amount of uploads until you get promoted to the next level. Mm-hmm. So it starts at 10. So you have to be really careful what you put up. And so I wanted these to be like 10 rock star designs and rock star keywords and stuff. And so I put it all up and found designers to make shirts for me. I'm not a designer, by the way. And basically grinded it out. So my first goal for the month was just to, figure out how to sell and how to actually make money and see if this is a viable resource of income. So that first month I was going at it hard. Like I made 10 shirts. I was like posting on all these different forums and like trying to sell it to my friends and trying to sell it to my family and stuff. And so I was just basically going at it, trying to A/B test exactly what keywords work, like how to structure everything. And my first sale was like probably 4 days in of starting.
Really?
And that was the wildest experience ever. Yeah. So like I'd never made money online before since then. Well, aside from like Kickstarter and stuff, but like this was the first time where it's like, whoa, I just put that up like 4 days ago and I got a sale. That's crazy.
Right.
And so
what just happened? You're like, whoa.
Yeah. I was like leaning back in my chair, like melted. I was like, wow, I made $1.
Now, could you track that to anything that you had done? So you were were you posting images of the shirt or the link or something in your like social media channels and that kind of stuff? Or
I know exactly what the shirt is, and I know it's a shirt that I put on my Facebook.
Okay.
But the thing is, none of my Facebook friends bought any of my shirts. Thanks, friends.
Okay.
I was like, my shirts is like, wow, my friends suck, It's like, why isn't anyone buying, please? So this was a completely organic shirt that was just listed on Amazon. Someone was searching for it and then they bought it. That's what blew my mind,
Oh,
it's one thing to sell to a friend or family, but it's like if it's actually just a real customer, that's crazy.
Right. Right. Well, that's an interesting insight into any business where, people have to understand that if you're going to be successful in business, all your revenue comes from strangers.
Right, absolutely.
You know.
And what's even crazier is that I don't even know the strangers, or I've never talked to them either. So
Right. It is pretty wild.
Yeah. And so I was grinding for, a long time. I was working probably like 30 to 40 hours a week on merch, just like trying to research, like what's selling, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
And so I made a whole whopping $60 or something like that my first month. And I was like, yeah, on the inside, but on the outside, like my parents are like yelling at me, like, get a job,
Yeah, what are you doing,
like,
dude? $60 ain't gonna do nothing for you.
Yeah. And so they're like, man, that's great and all, but like, please, like, try to look for some side income or something. Or like, you can't just like be doing this and stuff. And I was like, I really want this to work.
Right.
And so like my family friends, like my parents' friends and stuff, they'd be asking me like, hey, so what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd just be like, I'm making t-shirts online.
Yeah. Right.
60. So it's like on the outside, it's like, oh, I'm so shy about this, but it's like, I know it's gonna work.
Right.
So come around the second month, I made something around like $400, I think. And that was like, all right, that's like, we're making traction here. And it's like 60 to 400-ish was like, whoa, that's a big leap. And then I was still like really nervous about like telling people what I was doing, but like I was labeling it on my Facebook like, hey, this is my side project, it's just like a little casual thing.
Right.
But in reality, it was like, this is all I'm in for, It's like, please, someone buy my shirts. I'm only making so much.
Right.
None of my friends are buying anything.
It's so funny.
Yeah. But all the organic sales, like they got my back,
Right. Right.
And so things really started to pick up month 3. So one of my shirts caught fire, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I was making like 10 sales a day to like 20 sales a day to 30 sales a day to 40 sales a day to like 100 shirts a day. And I was like, oh, this is so crazy. So I was literally traveling. It was August of last year. I was literally traveling and just kind of like doing whatever, because I had a couple trips planned. And also, since I was making so much, I was like, you know what? I'm retired. Woo! And I ended up finding a marketing gig. So like, as I was like, I can ease off of Amazon because it's working really, really well. I ended up making about $7,000 profit just from merch that August by like not doing anything. And then I found another gig because I was like, you know what, I can ease off, I can do something more active, and this can be my passive income.
I see. Right.
And so I found the marketing gig. And so that combined income allowed me to be my first August was my first month making over $10,000 a month as a digital nomad. So I was like, oh, we made it.
Right.
It's like this was like goal number 1 since we got left our job. So it's like making over 10K a month while you're remote. That's crazy. It's like you can do whatever.
Yeah, that's a great milestone. I mean, that's something you can be sustainable. You can live on. You can save for retirement, et cetera. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wow, like there's no limits to anything right now. Because when you're making like $50 an hour, including while you're sleeping, it's like there's no worries, man.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It's wild. And so I haven't touched Amazon really since then. I've been like uploading for trends and like building up my store, but ever since then it's been passive for Amazon. So that's pretty much how it all began. Like it sounds get rich quick, but it was really like you got to grind it out. It's like make a little bit of money and then a little more, and then once you figure out how it works, then you're set.
Right.
People think it's just like that 3-month span, but no, it was like this accumulation of years of like trying to figure out what the heck works for me, because like people are making 10K a month doing other things, but like I tried their stuff, and it's like that didn't work for me. So
Right.
it's all that trial and error and trying to figure out what exactly works for you. So that's how long it took on paper, but in reality, it's the mindset. That was the number one thing, and like all that grinding it out. So.
Right. It's the culmination of what you're kind of trying to move towards, what you're chasing, et cetera. Yeah. I people kind of miss that, and I think it's a really a good insight to figure out what's going to work for you, what's right for you. You know, like, because I've seen some people, I looked at drop shipping, and I've tried other business ideas, just over the years of just, related to my engineering world work and those kind of things. But it's always been like, well, it didn't quite work for me, but I see other people do those things and they're massively successful. So it's like, you kind of think like, well, I'm just, I don't have the capability.
Right.
You sort of get down on yourself, or you just think, well, I'm just not that person. It's never going to happen for me. But I think the reality is finding that thing that does work for you, that just turns you on, that gives you that passion, and you just figured it out, So that's incredible. So now that you have this thing working at this point in time, are you? Because I know let's talk about your presentation at the Nomad Summit in a second here. But when you first started it and got it kind of rolling, and it was got this organic sales basically, so you weren't really having to promote or advertise. You're not using any paid ads, right? And you weren't really posting on your forums or on your Facebook. They just really found you organically with the keyword search. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So that was the main. That's how you begin. I did do ads for Facebook. Those failed. I lost money there.
Okay.
And I did do ads for, it's called AMS, or Amazon Marketing Services.
Right.
So those are directly like the sponsored posts on Amazon. So I basically thought of it like, I'm going to find my best sellers through organic search, and then I'm going to feed money to those best sellers because I know the design is great. I know people are buying this. So it's just pushing a product to more people that is going to sell. So I put in some money for that, but eventually I just decided, it's already passive enough. So like, I'm totally happy with how much money it's bringing in without me paying for extra. So might as well just work on something else.
I see. I gotcha. And what level are you at in terms of like, as you're leveling up here, and are you continuing to load in designs?
So I am at tier 2000 right now. I should be at tier 6000. What that means is
really?
I should have 6,000 designs live on Amazon, but I don't. So I have the sales for it in order to get to the next level, but I don't have the capacity. So what you need to do when you're at a specific tier is fill those slots up to 80% or more, and that enables you to go to the next level. So it's been like, I haven't been uploading this, obviously. So that's the reason why I'm not at tier 6,000 now.
I see. Well, how many designs do you have up now? Do you have 2,000 or 1,000?
No, I have roughly like 400 or so. But I've been relying on about 100 designs only for a long time.
I see. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, that's just some good perspective of, obviously if you find, just a handful of really great designs that people love, I mean, that could be, that could sustain you really, I guess, for a while. Until culture changes or the, politics change or whatever. There's something that would affect these trends, But that's interesting. Okay, so now, I mean, this is kind of just mind blowing to me just hearing this story. It's kind of wild, right? So it's ramping up, and you decide to see the Nomad Summit that's happening in the U.S., which was just about a month ago, around Labor Day weekend. So it's 2018, and that's where we got connected. So you decided to go out there. So tell me the story of how you met CJ, who was presenting at the Nomad Summit, who was also doing merch by Amazon, and that was one of the topics that they presented during the conference. How did you connect? How did you meet him? How did you get connected to him? And how did you end up presenting while you were there, when you were just there to attend? I mean, this is a crazy story.
Right. So I originally, like, when I was looking up the Nomad Summit for this year, I was like, oh, awesome, it's in Vegas. And I was like, ooh, I don't really want to pay for a ticket because I'm a baller on a budget. It's like, you always got to be cheap with things. So it's like,
baller on a budget. Wait, I'm going to write that down. It's my new t-shirt.
Yeah, sounds good.
You probably already got it out there. Okay, anyways, go ahead.
So you heard it here first with Jim. Like, so buy his baller on a budget shirt, guys.
Right. Which I'll tell you. I'll give you my update, my merch by Amazon update before we get to the end of the episode here. So keep going.
Yeah, sure. So I was like, you know what? I don't really want to pay for like the full price of the ticket. I was like, you know what? I can speak on this thing. I guess I'll do like, I have different topics. You know, I could do like just digital nomads in general, or like being young as a digital nomad, because I was the youngest person at the Chiang Mai Summit, and
you were?
so it was a completely different experience. Before like getting into everything, because everyone else was pretty established or like older and like figured it out later, but for me I was fairly young, so that's what I wanted to speak about, just because I know about it. And I also could do merch, I could do, you know, finding a job online, or like so many different things. And so I shoot the planners a message, and I'm like, hey, I'd really be interested in speaking. You know, I went to the last one and blah, 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 blah. Hoping I can get like a ticket comp. And, or at least something. I mean, even if I didn't, like, it would still be a really cool experience to speak at the summit. Just because it took so long for me to find my right place where I'm at now. And I just want to share that with people and hopefully like get them started, because I had an idea, but I really didn't know what would fit for me back then. So anything I could do to help would be awesome. But anyway, they come back and say, hey, like, we've already got someone young and already in merch and like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, man. Like, but it's okay. It's like, cool. There's another mercher there. I could connect with him. And so I looked him up, and he had a episode or an interview on one of my other friends. So RJ, his name's RJ as well. He runs another merch group. And he is one of the people that I learned from before starting all of this. And so he had an interview with him, and I was like, cool. So he's already established. He's good to go. Like, yeah, sounds good. I'm really curious if I'll learn anything from him, because I already have my system down. I already know like what works for me and everything. I don't really need to go to his workshop, but it'd be cool to connect with another mercher. And so I go to the conference, and it hasn't started yet with any of the speeches or anything. We're just kind of like hanging out, like going to dinner and like, you know, like get-togethers and stuff like that. And so we're all at dinner in the bottom of the hotel, and I see CJ, because he's pretty recognizable. He's got like sunglasses on, a feather in his head, and he has a specific style. And so I was like, hey, that's the other mercher. So I finish up dinner, and I walk over, and he's talking to other people. I'm like, hey, man, are you CJ? He's like, yeah, what's your name? I'm RJ. He's like, cool name. I'm like, you too, you know? And I'm like, where are you from? And he's like, oh, well, I'm from Oklahoma, but I live in Dallas. I was like, I live in Dallas. And so we're like, oh, no way. Like, where are you from? Like, blah, blah, blah. And like talk, you know, small talk Dallas stuff. And so he's like, so what brings you here? Is like, I'm doing merch. Like, I saw you before this. He's like, oh, no, I'm doing merch too. That's awesome. So we just started talking and like getting to know each other. And his story is basically a mirror image of mine. So he went to the Nomad Summit, the one before the Vegas one in Chiang Mai. And
wait, so you were trying to get you guys were in Chiang Mai together, but you didn't meet each other?
That's what I thought initially, but it's actually, so I was in the 2017 one. He was in the one after that.
Oh, okay. So earlier this year, right? Okay.
Right. So he basically went to Chiang Mai, and then he got inspired, and then 3 months later he made $8K in profit. And so I was like, dude, that's literally like my story too.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's like we live in the same place. Like, we're both making good money on Amazon, and it's like we both have initials for our name. It's like we're basically like a boy band or something. Man.
Yeah, really.
Like,
I love that. Hilarious.
And so yeah, we just kept talking and like telling people about merch and like trying to hype it up and like telling them like this is really what we believe in, because it's true. It's like it's really life changing.
Yeah, it is.
And so he like does his thing. He goes to a speech the next day and like learning about his story and everything. It's a really awesome speech. It just got released on YouTube. Just search CJ cool. Merch by Amazon Digital Nomad Summit on YouTube. It should pop up. And so it was really cool and like how he did everything. But the thing is that his process was completely different from mine. And I was like, he's missing out on some money here.
Right.
Yeah. So he does merch completely different than the way I do it. And I was just like, that's so interesting. Because I thought everyone does it the same way, or like people like, I was like outside of that space after I figured out what works for me. Because like I just pay attention to like the updates on content policies or things like that, but I wasn't paying attention to like what other people were doing to make money. I thought we were all like pretty much like figuring it out on our own.
Sure.
Yeah, the next day was the workshop day, and I only planned to go to the tax one, because I really wanted to, get an in-depth view of like how to do this tax thing for nomads, because it's a tricky situation.
Right.
And so I go downstairs. I'm meeting with somebody, and we're planning on going to a brunch. So I get down the elevator, and then the elevator opens up mid trip, and it's on a different floor, and then CJ's there. I was like, hey, what's up, CJ? He's like, hey man, what are you up to? And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to brunch. He's like, oh, that sounds good, can I join? I'm like, yeah man. So we drop off his bags, and we start walking and talking about like merch and everything, and like how we're so similar and stuff, and just kind of like hanging out, nothing really like serious about it. And then we sit down to eat. We meet up with the other group, and they ask like, hey, so like, what's your speech on today, and like when are you speaking? And he's like, I'm talking about like this and this, and I think I'm like third or something. And we look at the schedule, and he's actually first. And we're like, oh, that's in like 20 minutes.
Better get moving.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh, shoot. Okay. So like we eat really fast. And I asked him like, hey, so like you're only talking about this, and this. Well, what about like blah, blah, blah? And he's like, no, I don't actually do that. But like I know a lot of people do. Do you want to talk about it? And I'm like, sure. So it was pretty much an impromptu thing where it's like, hey, I have some value that I can provide to everybody, and like he knows it's a big part of the business, and so we just got together. We didn't have any slides or anything, and like nothing prepared. He had some like basic slides of like initial things, but literally we were creating it like that 20 minutes before like everyone came in that conference room.
Right.
And he was like asking people like, hey, how do I screen share through my iPhone through the crowd and stuff? Because we were trying to build this like in-depth, like, hey, this is how you do it from your phone.
Right.
And so he had his speech, and then I had mine. And then all these questions started coming in because people were just like fired up to hear about it, and they were like really inspired to learn about it. They're like, wow, this is amazing, Right. And everyone was like, you guys did so well. Like you practiced like really hard, it looks like. And we're like, not really. We just kind of winged it. Like we're just speaking from the heart,
Right. Well, maybe that's why it came across so impactful, I guess, because I was there in the audience, so I was like, I didn't know you guys at this point, really. I kind of knew who CJ was because he was on the schedule to speak. But it was interesting because you guys kind of threw a ping-ponged it kind of back and forth between each other, and you kind of, gave out your style of how you think about merch and how you got into it, but your technique kind of for searching and using trends, and he talk to people about his technique of, he's more of like, how would you describe his style in terms of how he sells shirts? He's more of like a trend follower, right?
Right. So he goes like directly to his source. He goes on Instagram and looks through the explore page. And so anything that's like happening with what he likes, that's what he creates.
Right.
And
it's more about his community and the things that he's really passionate about and into, right?
Exactly. And for me, it's more of like, let me do what's trending. But also it's like, I'll do things that I'm passionate about, but it's also just like, I'd rather have something make money for me in the background and fund my passions, So it's not really about like following your dreams and like working on your passion and like doing all that. It's like having something that will allow you to do whatever you want to do is how I see it.
Yeah, right. Just use it as the tool. Yeah. Well, I thought it was brilliant. The presentation was brilliant. What was interesting to me, this is just sort of my, I'll tell you a little bit about how I'm thinking about it, or why we got connected, how we got connected, and started talking about it. So I see the presentation, and we had a couple presentations that day, and it was like time for me to like come up for air. It's like I got to get out of this room and go out and get some fresh air. And so I was just decided, you know what, I'm not going to worry about the next presentation. I'm going to go out and see what's going on out in the lobby area. Like there was a coffee shop or bar area there that people were just hanging out that weren't in the main session. And so I go out there and I realize you and CJ are out there doing like a mastermind with some other people that were interested in signing up for it. And I think you were actually signing up. I think Candy was out there who's one of the organizers of the conference. She was helping out, but she was interested in it, and you were showing her. I think CJ was showing her how to sign up. So I was just hanging out, like watching you guys and talking to you guys, and I think that's where we started talking initially. And I thought, like, wow, it doesn't seem that hard. Maybe this is something I should check out, And that was really the point where I got motivated. It'll be like, wait, I think I'm going to try this. I think I'm going to do this. And I realized you guys had these Facebook groups together, and I think you guys started talking about maybe doing something together. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit in terms of what else you got going on in the merch, sphere, of online.
Right.
Because I know you have a Facebook group. What else are you doing with it?
Yeah. So after CJ and I did the whole workshop and everything, we came up to each other like, bro, like, that was so cool. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking
cool.
the exact thing. I was like, man, we should do that more often. He's like, yeah, like we both live in Dallas. We both know what we're talking about. It's like, we both know exactly like how to do this thing, but we're different. So like build off each other. It's so cool. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And, so we just like sat down and like did the mastermind thing, and we're like, we should find more speeches and stuff, because like that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing we're trying to do, try to get more speeches, just like get people inspired and live this lifestyle, and at least like try it,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then we sat down, like did kind of a more in-depth workshop with some select few people, whoever wanted to come and join us. And then we were saying, like, you know what if we, like, instead of just repeatedly over and over again talk to all these different people, what if we just put it online somewhere? So we're thinking about creating like a course or like a YouTube channel or something. So just we have like something to just pass off, like easy, like, hey, here you go. This is how you do it. And if you need any more guidance, like we'll do one-on-ones and stuff. So that's what we're trying to build on the side. And just basically spreading the word of how to get this all started.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, what a great partnerships, like serendipity that you guys meet each other. They both live in Dallas, and you're both doing the same thing. I mean, it was really cool, and I was glad that I was there in the audience. I was like, what? This is crazy. It really looked like it was totally planned, because you guys looked like you were a team for like months or whatever. It's pretty wild.
Right? Yeah, such good energy.
It really was, and it's like, and then we got vibing out in the lobby and just talking about it. So yeah, so I ended up signing up and joining. There was a merch group in the Nomad Summit. I guess there was a WeChat group, but there's also a Facebook group that you guys are running. Who's the administrator of the Facebook group, which is, I think it's Merch by Amazon Lifestyle? Is that what it's called?
That's correct. Yeah, so I actually started this group a while back, and so it was called Merch by Amazon Dallas beforehand. But as I was like traveling around and meeting new people from different countries, like everyone was all interested. And I was like, you know what? Like, even though you're not from Dallas, like still join the group. There's a lot of information on there that I put in there, and a lot of people are asking all these questions that you'll have the answer to go find. So join the group anyways. And so coming up to the summit, like I had pretty good group called Merch by Amazon Dallas, and then meeting CJ, I was like, hey, like, do you want to just partner together? And he was like, yeah, like I've been actually trying to build a Facebook group, or like thinking about it. I was like, I already have one. And so I put him as an admin on there, and we just started like adding everybody to it as well. We added everyone from the Nomad Summit to a group chat, and then everybody else collectively has been on the Merch by Amazon lifestyle page. We changed the name.
Right. So yeah, so that's something to look for out there, and I'll try to have those links in the show notes, of course. Wow, what a cool story. So, but the story doesn't end there, because it's like, as I got to know you and I realized what you were up to, and you're like, hey, you have this flexibility to travel around now. You were telling me that you were again, like kind of getting bored and kind of putting the merch sort of a little bit on autopilot in the background, because you wanted to keep exploring or keep finding new things. So finally, we're going to get to the reason of why you are in Kona, Hawaii right now. So tell everybody, how did you get to be in Kona, and what are you doing out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So that marketing gig that I found way back like a year ago, it's a digital agency where I can still work online. And one of my clients is basically somebody that works in the triathlon space. And so we are in Kona for the Ironman World Championships. And so I didn't have to be here, but I was like, you know what? This is a once in a lifetime experience to go and be with a company that works for Ironman at the basically like the Tour de France or like the Olympics of triathlon, which is crazy. And so I was like, you know what, let me come to Kona to work there for a little bit, meet the company, and also just hang out. So it's only going to last about a week that I have to do like physical things on the island, but the rest of the time it's just here for, working here just to work here. It's been a really chill environment, and I just like traveling. So I'll be here for about a month and just soaking it all in. So that's the reason mainly why I'm here. But yeah.
So okay, so they didn't. It wasn't where your job wasn't requiring you to go out there. I didn't realize that part. You just said,
no.
"Hey, hey, I might as well go," and then they're probably giving you things to do since you're out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, if you need an extra hand, it's like I'll still be there just because that'd be so cool to see. Like, hey, the company that I'm supporting, they are in this space and like running these events and stuff. Right. And so it's like, wow, I want to be in that location. But then I also just offered my hand just because, like I'm going to be here anyways.
Oh,
if you tell me or not,
Yeah. Oh, what a great experience. And you know what, that Ironman, it really is. It's like a worldwide mega event. Like I didn't appreciate how big it was. I was in Kona about 2 years ago, just after the Ironman. So I think it's because I think they planned the conference there, to get cheap hotel rates basically right afterwards. So no, all the hotels were open and free. But I didn't realize how big it was, and it's been on I think it's been televised. It's been on ESPN. I mean, God, for like 25, 30 years or something like that. I mean, it is the highest event in terms of in the triathlon world. So what a cool opportunity to be there for it, man. I just saw all the regalia like when I was there. Like, what is this place? Why do they have all these Ironman things? And then it like dawned on me, wait, I've seen this on TV for like years. Like I wasn't really appreciating like this is where it happens, Like, I was swimming in the beach where those people like swim in the beach as part of the triathlon. I was like, wow, wild, So that's really cool. Yeah. So and tell people how you found that gig. You were you were kind of searching online and in this space. So it sounds like you use Reddit a lot. Is that how you got connected?
Yeah. So it was actually through Reddit. It was during that time when I was like, both my parents were like, get a real job. And also they're saying like, you need to have something on the side. I was like, I agree. I need to have something, like I can't do Amazon forever because you never know if Amazon's going to pull the plug on you, or if like something can go wrong. So
right.
I was like, yeah, you need multiple streams of income. And that's what all the digital nomads push. And like, you should just generally have multiple streams of income, regardless of what you're doing.
Right.
So I went on Reddit as I was like traveling. I was in Canada, and I was like, let me just search the digital nomad forum, see what people are up to and stuff. And somebody posted like, hey, I'm interested in hiring somebody. Apply at this number. So I called it and I left my message and just didn't really think anything of it. And meanwhile, like I was still making sales and stuff. And then a month later, I get a call back and saying like, hey, like you have another round of interviews. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm up to learn more. And so I found out it's a digital agency. Everyone's traveling around, and it's like, this is such a cool thing. So I think this would be a really good gig to get. It's some like active income where I can like keep my mind fresh and do something different every day and make an impact for another company. And so those are all like things that I was like, this seems really awesome. And it turns out like I never thought that I would come to Kona, a year later and be here and still like traveling full time. So yeah, Reddit.
That's the place to be. I haven't used it much. I mean, I'm starting to get into Medium a little bit. There's all these just new things that keep popping up where you can really discover all these different things. Maybe I'll put those links in there too for people to discover what they are, because it's kind of like it's not quite a social network like Facebook or Twitter, those kind of things. It's more I guess research and text based. And how would you describe Reddit as an application?
Yeah, so basically Reddit would be like you have a bunch of soapboxes, right? It's just like an open field of soapboxes. So everyone can stand on their soapbox. And if people like what you're saying, they'll, applaud you. If people don't like what they're saying, then they'll throw tomatoes at you. It's not exactly like that, but like everything that people agree with or like gets bumped up to the top. And so there's different communities and different forums. They're called subreddits that people are getting into because of their interests. So if you're interested in, food, then you go to the food picks or whatever. If you're interested in business, you can go to different business subreddits. Or if you just want to laugh, you can go to like videos or funny or anything like that. So Reddit's just like a giant meeting place for people to build up a community.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just another flavor of the digital world, I guess. I mean, just amazing all these things that are popping up. Well, RJ, we got a few minutes left, but before we get out of here, I always have a couple questions I like to ask people that come on the show, and one of them is, in this ever-changing digital world and the digital world that you're really living in, living and breathing it every day, is there anything about digital that's kind of making you pull your hair out sometimes, or that you struggle with, or that gives you some pause?
So yeah, a couple things. There's not really a pinpoint where it's just like, oh, this is hurting me every single day, but some things that I've realized is that there's a lot of different apps or websites that try to keep you organized, and none of them have really fulfilled their purpose with me. Okay. So like I've done a Trello, I've done Asana, I've done Monday, I've done quite a few things. I've even just downloaded the Pomodoro app on my phone. And it's like while you're traveling, you're under a lot of different things pulling at you. And so just trying to keep that focus has been a little bit hard. Yeah. So I haven't found the exact solution about this, but it might not even be a technology thing. It might just be like hiring somebody to tell me like, hey, you're doing this, work on it, like a little person to just give you that little nudge. But I don't know if that's going to work even. So
Right.
Yeah, I think everyone struggles with that, but that's just one thing that I think about.
Well, I think it's a good point because it's, everybody's busy and everybody's got tough schedules, but when you're on the road and traveling, it's like another level of things that you have to manage. You have to manage like, oh, where am I going to sleep tonight? And when does the plane leave again? And which airport is it leaving out of? And, there's a lot of things that you may slip your mind or et cetera, as you're kind of having to move around a lot. But I haven't found, my background is in project management, doing product development and project management and herding a lot of cats and all that kind of stuff. And I hate Trello. There's like some real new age digital things that, have come out of, that are just apps that came out of people's brains that they thought, oh, this is interesting, or this is a new way to organize information, without really the experience of actually running big projects. That's what I've found, and that's why I think a lot of those systems have shortcomings. You know what I mean? They're a little more for conversations, or it's just a way for you to connect in a different way, but it doesn't really help organize you any better, in my opinion, in terms of like really running a big project. So I have my own systems of doing it. There's a few out there actually. In terms of project management, there's a company, I should just give them a little shout out just because I like them, called Liquid Planner, which I think is a good, for big projects. And if you're trying to work with teams and the team needs to know what they need to do every day, where you have a dashboard on your phone that can kind of give you a task list. So if you're a project manager that's trying to really run things and organize stuff, I like that application. But you're right. I that's an interesting frustration to have. You're right on, because I know that applies to my life too, especially when I'm trying to do the podcast and do my clients' work and all that kind of stuff. So cool. Well,
right. I'm sure a lot of people relate.
Oh, totally. And thinking about that, so all right, so that's one thing that's kind of frustrating you. But as you're going along and as you're trying to explore and think about all these new things, how do you keep your mind open to reinvention, or to all the ways the different business models are shifting around, or the opportunities that are being thrown at you? How do you navigate that type of stuff?
Right. So you always have to look at it with an open perspective. So everything is going to be changing. It's like regardless of what's working today might be different in a couple years. For example, like we just talked about finding a job. LinkedIn used to be the number one place to find a job, but
right.
I don't really use LinkedIn actively because it's just a bunch of spam emails asking you to go premium. So
right. It really is right now. It's annoying.
Yeah. And it's like, who even is on LinkedIn? You know, it's people that either want to find other people, which is fair, but it's like, that's a huge job board. You got to go and find the source. So, you know, it worked for me on Reddit. It could be, you know, just going to a company directly. That always works. But yeah, there's things that are always changing. So you just got to find what's the right thing in this point of time. I'm very fortunate to have gotten on Merch by Amazon at the right period of time. And it still is. It's still like the Wild West out there. And so right now, Merch by Amazon is a really, really hot thing to get on. But, you know, in a couple of years, it might be something else. So you just got to keep looking.
Right. I totally feel you. And that's just, I just like to get that message out there. And it's great to hear other people's voices, how they think about it, because, you know, we are in this age of this inflection point of just, you know, the digitization of the world taking over, it feels like. And you really got to keep your, kind of, you know, keep the blinders off, and you keep your peripheral vision, you know, more on your main site all the time now. So cool. Well, I got one last question for you. Maybe you can share with everybody a reinvention revelation, as I call it. You know, something that when you got into merch, and now that you're in this digital nomad scene, something that, you know, you learned about yourself or was surprising, you know, now that you see where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it would be money. Everyone, when they're growing up, and like even now, you have that dream where it's like, I need to make $10,000 a month. I need to make six figures. I need to do this, buy this nice car, and like buy a big house and everything. But it's like, as I was going through my beginning stages of traveling and being remote and all of that, you know, none of that mattered anymore. So yeah, I was making, you know, like $10,000 a month, but it's like, now what? You know, you're already fulfilled in so many ways that there's no need to buy a car, because if you're traveling the world, like, what's the point of having a Ferrari if you can't use it? What's the point of having a house if you can't use it? And so it's like, I would rather trade, you know, like all of that for the location independence and for like the monetary reassurance that I don't have to worry about that. And so that's the biggest revelation for me, as everything's been gearing more towards minimalism for me. It's like I'm living out of a backpack sometimes. And so it's like, I don't think about buying souvenirs for myself. I'll buy like things for my family, or like if something, you know, if I have space in my bag, I'll buy something for my friends and stuff. But none of that monetary or materialistic things really matter at this point. It's all just about the experience. And so that's the biggest revelation that I've gone through in the past couple of years.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, and yeah, I'm totally in the same space right now, and it's kind of funny to me. The more, I guess, success that I have, or the more, you know, assets I acquire, and, you know, I've been investing over the years, where you have the ability to, you know, access some of these things you've always, you know, seen on TV. Oh, maybe I could, you know, buy that certain car one day, or buy this type of house. I'm just not motivated to do it anymore. You know, I just don't see the value in it. Like, you know, it's like before you have the ability to do it, it's like one of your dreams. And then, you know, then you look at your bank account and it's like, yeah, I worked hard for this money, and this money has given me these freedoms. Like you said, freedom to travel, freedom to think differently, security, you know, freedom to like not have to work at a certain job that you don't like. You know, you can quit, and, you know, you have that. Really is this, for me, it boils down to security. Once you have that, you really are fulfilled in these other ways, and your mind doesn't kind of drift into those other kind of aspects of life, where maybe that explains kind of the people that don't have as many assets. They're always dreaming about those other things because they're not fulfilled in that way, I guess, you know. So that's an interesting insight. Well, cool.
And a lot of people also, they're just geared to think about that stuff because it's like, that's all they can get right now. If you're stuck in your, 9 to 5, it's like you can't go travel. So what's the next alternative? Get something materialistic that can fulfill that void. So I mean, it's like people like that. That's their own, lifestyle, which is great. And it also clicked like when we were filling out some, like what are your goals? Like what are your dreams? Kind of papers for the 4-hour work week. CJ and I had a little workshop session.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Just writing down we met in Dallas, and we just got some people together, and we were filling out the 4-hour work week papers, just like writing down your goals and stuff. And like all the people that are in the traditional jobs and stuff, they were writing down like, I want a Mercedes, I want like this, I want that. And then it comes down to me and it's like, I honestly didn't think about this, but like, none of that was all materialistic. It's like, I want to retire my parents, I want to be able to have them not work anymore just because I can provide for them. I want to learn Spanish so I can, go to all the Latin America countries and actually like talk to the locals more and like really understand them. I want to learn how to dance, it's like I want to build my skills up. I want to have all these experiences rather than, reaching some kind of benchmark that's on paper or that's, in the bank or whatever. So.
Right. Yeah, well, interesting. Yeah, that's a great exercise too. And I started doing that. Maybe that'll motivate me to go back and continue. Because I read that book. Gosh, this really at the start of my kind of reinvention about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 2.5 years ago. Yeah, it was an early book that I read that kind of had me starting to think about all this stuff. So what a great exercise that is too. Well, RJ, hey man, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time. If people are interested in merch by Amazon or finding your Facebook group or reaching out to you, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to connect with anyone. Thanks a lot, Jim, for having me on here. The best way to get in touch with me would be through Instagram. So my handle is at rj.mac, so rj.mac. And so you can DM me, follow me, watch what I'm doing and all my travels and stuff. And then if you're interested in Merch by Amazon specifically, go on Facebook. It's Merch by Amazon Lifestyle.
Okay, I'll make sure I have those handles in the notes. And you know what? I almost forgot. One thing I wanted to tell everybody before we get out of here was my Merch by Amazon experience. So because I saw that presentation just a month ago, and I thought, hey, maybe I should try this. So I got motivated. I got excited to do it. I didn't know if I was going to get approved because you have to sign up and request to get approved. So I got approved. I've sent in 8 or 9 designs by now, but by my third or fourth design, I've had one sale. I've had my first sale. I've had my first sale.
All right.
And I am not a designer. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like using Canva, which is like probably the horribly wrong thing to use to do any designs in, but they're very simple designs, just kind of words on the shirt. But I've had a sale,
but it sells. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what it brings. Maybe a couple months from now, maybe if I see you. Oh, by the way, are you going to be in Chiang Mai in January by any chance? Or
I bought my ticket to the summit, but I haven't bought my ticket to Thailand yet.
Okay.
Just waiting. I have some travel hacks and things that I'm trying to wait on. So
I see.
The ticket's there.
I gotcha. Okay, so maybe if I'm starting to plan. We'll see. I might make it over there for that. I definitely want to hit Asia again during the winter sometime. We'll see if I make it up to Chiang Mai for that thing. So maybe I'll see you there. But anyways, I'm excited to see what it brings. Maybe in the next couple of months here, I'll be able to have a story just like yours. We'll see.
Awesome. You're already leagues ahead. Don't worry.
Okay, man. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much again, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
All right. Thank you for listening to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at jimjimsreinventionrevolution.com. See you next time, and remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of. Hey, revolutionaries, if you enjoyed today's episode and today's guest, let them know by commenting on their Facebook page, finding their Twitter handle or Instagram feed, and letting them know you heard them on Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, and tell them what you got out of the episode, what you really liked, or how they inspired you. I know they would get a kick out of it, and will help others find the same value that you found.